Okay, again, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, our lesson for today is about communication models. Okay, communication models, in order to explain the social process of communication, scholars have developed several models. The three most well-known models for communication are linear, interactional, and transactional. Each model sheds light on the development of communication, but emphasizes different parts of the communication process. The models provides pictures or visual presentations of complex interactions. They are useful because they simplify the basic structure of communication and can help us to understand that structure not just verbally but also visually. Okay, most importantly, they identify the various elements of communication and serve as kinds of map to show how different parts of communication process are interrelated. So we have three communication models. First, the linear communication models. Under linear communication model, uh, Laswell's model, Aristotle's model, Berlo's SMCR model. So next, transactional model. Under transactional model, Shannon and Weaver model. And then last, the interactive model. Under interactive model, Crumb's model and Dan's helical model. Okay, let's first discuss a linear model of communication. Okay, linear model of communication. Communication is considered one-way process. The message signal is encoded and transmitted through channel and presence of noise. The sender is more prominent in linear model of communication. And lastly, applied and mass communication like television, radio, etc. So meaning to say, linear model, this model describes how a sender or speaker transmits a message to a receiver. Okay, this is a fairly simple model in which a message is simply passed from sender to receiver. Okay, there are some key features. First, one-way communication, used for mass communication, meaning to say use of technology. Okay, sender send message and receive only receive. No feedback, concept of noise. Pros and cons of a linear model of communication. Good at audience persuasion and propaganda setting. Intentionally results. Okay. And then the cons, communication is not continuous as no concept of feedback. No way to know if communication was effective. Okay, there are types of communication models based on linear model of communication are. First, Aristotle's model of communication. Okay, Aristotle 384 to 322 BC was a Greek philosopher and writer born in Stagira, northern Greece. He was also the teacher of Alexander the Great. He studied physics, logic, and mathematics, etc. So Aristotle models, according to this model, the speaker plays a very key role in communication. He is the one who takes completely charge of the communication. The model says that the speaker communicates in such a way that the listener get influence and respond accordingly. Okay, Aristotle model of communication considered as the first model of communication and was proposed before 300 BC or 300 before Christ, then most widely accepted among all communication model. Okay, These are the concept of Aristotle model of communication: the speaker or the sender, speech or the message, the audience, and the effect. Elements of good communicator: the ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos means credibility of the speaker, characteristic which makes you credible in front of the audience. Pathos means emotional bond, and what you say matters to them and they can connect with it, then they will be more interested. It is about the emotion and feelings of the sender. Logos, sense of reason. You must present facts to the audience for them to believe in you. Okay, more on factual basis. Uh, Based on right research. Okay, that is the meaning of logos. Okay, remember the three elements of good communicator: ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay. Another one, Laswell's model of communication. Okay, Laswell developed by communication theorist by Harold D. Laswell, 1902 to 1978. In 1948, Laswell's model of communication, also known as action model or linear model or one-way model of communication, is regarded as one of the most influential communication models. Okay, components of Laswell's models. Who means the sender. Say what means the message of the sender. Channel, the medium. Okay, meaning to say the use of technology. What else? Verbally. Okay, to whom? To the receiver itself, and with what effect or the feedback of the receiver to the sender. Remember the components of last model. Who, say what, or the message, channel, to whom, with what effect. Another one, the components: who, the communicator or sender or source of the message. Analysis, control analysis. Say what, the content of the message. Okay, in which channel, the medium or the media, personally or technology. To whom, the receiver of the message or an audience. Okay, last, with what effect, the feedback of the receiver to the sender. Okay, if the receiver understand what the message of the sender. Berlo's model of communication. In 1960, David Berlo postulated Bachelor's Sender Message Channel Receiver, or SMCR model of communication from Shannon Weaver's model of communication, 1949. He described factors affecting the individual components in the communication, making the communication more efficient. Meaning to say, while Aristotle model of communication puts the speaker in the central position and suggests that um, the speaker is the one who drives the entire communication, the Berlo's model of communication takes into account the emotional aspects of the message. Berlo's model of communication operates on the SMCR model. Okay, meaning to say of SMCR, S stands for source or sender, M stands for message, C stands for channel, and R stands for receiver. Okay, let's first discuss the source or the sender. Okay, the source means he is the one who transfer the information to the receiver after carefully putting these thoughts into words. Okay, the message: when an individual converts her thoughts into words, a message is created. And then the channel actually refers to the medium, how the information flows from the sender to the receiver. And lastly, the receiver, when the message reached the receiver, he tries to understand what the listener actually wants to convey and then respond accordingly. So that is the meaning of SMCR, or the sender message channel receiver model of Berlo's model of communication. Aside from that, Berlo's model of communication focuses on encoding and decoding, which happens before sender sends the message and before receives the message, respectively. Okay. Lastly, Berlo's model has mainly four components to describe the communication process. Just what I said earlier, there are sender, message, channel, and receiver. Each of the components is affected by many factors. Letter B. Okay, letter B, transactional model. Okay, transactional model of communication is the exchange of messages between sender and receiver, where each takes turns to send or receive a message. Okay, earlier the linear model of communication, one-way process. Okay, in transactional model of communication, the communication is exchange of the message between the sender and the receiver. Okay, both sender and receivers are known as communicators. Okay, the model is mostly used to interpersonal communication and is also called circular model of communication, meaning to say transactional model of communication. It is sharing ideas both sender and receiver. Okay, linear model of communication, it is only the sender gives the ideas. Okay, while transactional model of communication, both sender and receiver gives and share their ideas. Okay, next. Okay, transactional model. Key features of transactional models used for interpersonal communication. Sender and receivers interchange roles simultaneously. Feedback. Context of environment and noise. Feedback is taking as new message. Okay, the pros of transactional model. Okay, simultaneously and instant feedback, no discrimination between sender and receiver. And the cons of transactional model encourages nonverbal communication, more noise due to talking at the same time. Okay, transactional models of communications are there are different types of communication models based on transactional models of communication. And these are Shannon and Weaver's model of communication. Okay, according to Shannon Weaver model of communication was created in 1948 when Claude Elwood Shannon wrote an article, A Mathematical Theory of Communication in Bell's System Technical Journal with Warren Weaver. Kay Shannon was an American mathematician, whereas Weaver was a scientist. The mathematical theory later came to be known as Shannon-Weaver model of communication, or mother of all models. Okay, the concepts in Shannon-Weaver model. Okay, sender, information source. Okay, encoder means transmitter. Encoder is sender who uses machine which converts message into signals or binary data. It might also directly refers to the machine. The channel. Channel is the medium used to send message. Decoder or the receiver. Decoder is the machine used to convert signals or binary data into message, or the receiver who translate the message from signals. Receiver or destination. Receiver is the person who gets the message or the place where the message must reach. The receiver provides feedback according to the message. And then lastly, the noise. Noise is the physical disturbances like environment, people, etc., where does not let the message get to the receiver as what is sent. Another one, the interactive model of communication. Okay. Interactive model of communication refers also known as convergence model. Okay, deals with exchange of ideas and messages taking place both ways from sender to receiver and vice versa. The communication process takes place between humans or machines in both verbal or nonverbal way. This is a relatively new model of communication for new technologies like web. Okay, the features or key features of interactional model used for new communication like internet, slower feedbacks in turns, concept of fields of experience known as convergence model. Communication becomes linear if receiver does not respond. Okay, the pros of interactional model, feedback even in mass communication, new communication channels. Example of new communication channels, uh, social media platform. Okay, example, Messenger, video chat, Twitter, Facebook. What else? Instagram, WhatsApp, WeChat. Okay, those are examples of new communication channels. And the cons of interactional model, feedback can take a very long time. Sender and receiver might not know who the other person is. Okay, there are different types of communication models based on interactive model of communication. And these are Osgood or Crumb's model of communication. Okay, Crumb's model of communication built on the theory that communication is a two-way street with the sender and the receiver. Okay, Charles Egerton Osgood popularized the notion that communication was circular rather than linear, meaning that is required to participants talking turns sending and receiving a message. Okay, just what I said earlier, okay, linear model of communication, it is a one-way process only. Okay, in Crumb's model of communication, it is a two-way street or with the sender and the receiver giving their ideas. Nagbabatuhan sila ng ideas. Okay, Charles Egerton Osgood popularized the notion that communication was circular rather than linear, meaning that it requires two participants taking turns sending and receiving a message. Example of this is a debate. Okay, when it comes to debate, you have to prove your ideas, and then the other one give also ideas in that particular topic. That is an example of Crumb's model of communication or a two-way street. Okay, next. Okay, this is the visual interpretation of Crumb's model of communication. Then Dan's helical's model of communication. Frank Dance proposed a communication model inspired by a helix in 1967, known as helical model of communication. A helix is a three-dimensional spring-like curve in the shape of cylindrical or a cone. Helix is a compare with evolution of communication of a human since birth to existing or existing moment. Helical models gives geometrical testimony of communication. The model is linear as well as circular combined and disagrees the concept of linearity and circularity individual. Communication is taking a dynamic process and helical model of communication, and it progresses with age as your experience and vocabulary increases. Okay, first, child communication evolves. After some years, communication continues. And after many years, communication continues and grow depends on the past experiences. And in current or existing day, communication continues with modification.